Hey guys, welcome to my channel Miss Recap. The show begins with Helena Walker, who wakes up underwater and finds herself on a mysterious island as she swims to the surface. She has no clue where she is and finds a microchip in her arm. What even surprises her the more is when she finds a creature called the dodo, a species of bird that went extinct in the 17th century. Just as she pets the bird, a shirtless man throws a spear towards her, claiming the bird to be his dinner. Helena protests that the creature hasn't been seen since 17th century and he wants to use it for dinner. The man realizes she's a new person on this island and decides to give her explanation on where she is. He introduces himself as Bob, who was fighting the War of the Nasses in 1940, only to find himself teleported to this island just the way Helena was teleported here too from the 21st century. Everything about the war seemed like 2 weeks ago to him, and explains that the mysterious island is a home to all sort of species that went on extinction. Just as she embarks on a journey with Bob to know more about the island, she finds a wounded Parasaurolophus shot by an arrow. Bob suggests they kill it to put it out of its misery, but Helena doesn't want to see a precious creature like this one die. With Bob's help, they pulled out the arrow and she treated the creature wounds. Bob asks her how she knows so much about these creatures, and she reveals it was her job back on Earth. She was a professor of paleontology who studied fossils of creatures just like this one. Just as they set to continue their journey, Bob gets brutally killed with an arrow by a woman riding a raptor. Helena runs away for her life while being chased by the woman. She falls down a valley only to find herself in a burning village that is being attacked by raptor-riding soldiers. The soldiers kill every single human they saw at that village, while the women and children are taken as slaves. A raptor tries to attack Helena, but she directs a shining shield to the creature's eyes so it won't see her. The leader of the attack, who witnesses how Helena knows much about the creatures, orders his men to spare her life. Helena is knocked out, and she wakes up after a few hours later inside a tent to be greeted by Edmund Rockwell, a scientist from Victorian England in 1890, who also mysteriously found himself on this island. So human beings here think this island is their afterlife or purgatory, but Edmund Rockwell thinks otherwise as he calls the island the ARK. He tells her that she is in a camp of General Gaius Marcellus Nerva, the Conqueror. Edmund takes her to a pit where he left hundreds of raptors starving, and tells her to help him understand the creatures. Helena instead grows angry, because these creatures do not deserve to be treated like this. Same with some of the humans whom they placed captive in their prisons. Since she knows more about dinosaurs, Edmund threatened her to tell him everything she knows about them, but instead, she hits him and tries to escape. He orders the soldiers to stop her, but Helena is a really fast runner. Unfortunately, General Nerva blocks her path of escape with a T-Rex dinosaur, and she is placed with the other prisoners at General Nerva's camp prison for disobeying Edmund's wishes. There she befriends a little boy called Jamie, who came from Anno Domini in 1746. He was fighting a war that time when he woke up to also find himself on this island only to be taken as captive by General Nerva. He tells her not to be afraid, that they will all be fine, but that's when Edmund shows up. To teach Helena a lesson for defying his request, Edmund commands a huge man-eating dinosaur to devour the little kid in front of her. Later in the evening, she is summoned by General Nerva to meet in his tent. We find out that General Nerva was a commander during the time of the Roman Empire. He apparently led a rebellion when he was killed, as he hated the corrupt officials who ran the empire. After his death, he also found himself in this mysterious island and decides to conquer it. Nerva believes it's only people who have died that ends up on this island and interrogates her on who she is. He finds out that Helena comes from 2,000 years after his era, and she's a teacher and philosopher. Knowing this, the general sees her as someone who will be useful to him and decides to spare her life. Since she's indeed a philosopher, the general brings out a strange artifact and tells her to show him how to use it. He explains that there are 2 other artifacts just like this one, but are scattered across this mysterious island. According to the inscription he read, he believes that once he possesses the 2 other parts of the artifacts, he will be able to open a portal that will help him live this mysterious island, which he calls the afterlife. Nerva wishes to use the artifacts to go back to Rome and take over the empire of the corrupt aristocrats. While he talks, Helena takes advantage of his distraction. She poisons Nerva's wine glass with the slime of a highly venomous snail. Nerva drinks the wine and it paralyzes him, but this paralysis will only last for 2 hours. This is a big escape opportunity for Helena, so she takes the artifact from a paralyzed general's hand and begins a smart plan for her escape. While the general's men are asleep, she takes some meats and scatters them around the camp. Then she tries to open the cage of the hungry dinosaurs, but Edmund stops her. He orders the soldiers to capture her, but Helena this time around fights back. She successfully opens the cage of dinosaurs in their captivity, and they begin to devour Nerva's men one by one. One of the raptors tries to harm her, but the Parasaurolophus she saved back at the forest defends her. Quickly, Helena sets all the prisoners in the camp free, but things does not go as planned as the general regained consciousness faster than she expected. Just as the general tries to catch her, the Parasaurolophus places Helena on its back to help her escape from the camp, but she gets impaled with a spear thrown by the general. The general vows to find her by any means possible, and not just use the artifact to conquer Rome, but he's also going to conquer her world. Helena summons the courage to remove the spear from her body, and tries to run from General Nerva men chasing her, but she's too weak. She falls to the ground out of exhaustion, and when the men are about to get her, a mysterious warrior comes to her rescue by killing the men, and takes her to somewhere safe. Helena wakes up and searches for food to eat. The little she found, she gave them to her pet dinosaur. Some wild creatures attacks her from nowhere, leading to her to fall inside a pit, while running away from them. Helena gets into a bigger trouble when a saber-toothed tiger attacks her, but the mysterious warrior comes to her rescue for the second time, killing the tiger with her formidable skills. The warrior introduces herself as Mei Yin, a Chinese warrior from the era of the Han Dynasty. Mei Yin tells her that there is something in this cave that is of great value to her, and asks Helena to accompany her if she wants. While they explore the cave, she informs Helena that half of the island are looking for her, because General Nerva has promised a pricey reward for anyone who brings her to him. They decide to rest, and Mei Yin skins a rabbit for dinner. While they eat, she tells Helena that everyone here has the microchip in their hand. No one knows why they mysteriously appeared on this island, or perhaps are they being punished. After a long walk, they stumble across a gate, and Mei Yin realizes that the artifact Helena stole from General Nerva is the key to the gate. As Mei Yin and Helena enters the gates thanks to the artifact, they come across spiders, but they are of no threat to them until the spider boss shows up. Mei Yin tries everything in her power but couldn't take down the beast. Fortunately, Helena has a plan. She notices that the smaller spider's food is a blue liquid and throws it on the body of the spider boss. The smaller spiders climbs on its body, and in that way, they killed the spider boss. Something surprisingly happens afterwards. Just like most games we play, a loot drop always awaits at the end of a boss fight, and same goes for Mei Yin and Helena, as they mysteriously receive a high-tech laser-operated rifle just after killing the spider boss. Helena tests the rifle, which creates an opening in the cave. Upon seeing the great capabilities of this weapon, Mei Yin believes it to be another chance to reform an alliance and attack General Nerva again, ending his conquest. As they come out of the cave, dozens of men point arrows at them. Their leader is a man called John. John and Mei Yin know each other because they were once allies. John and Mei Yin has been living in this island for long, and their family members were massacred by General Nerva. Being fed up by the unnecessary bloodshed that Nerva has been committing, Mei Yin joined forces with John and his tribe to lead a rebellion against the tyrant General Nerva. They could have actually won the war, but a trusted friend of Mei Yin betrays them, leading to the massacre of their allied forces. After the war they lost, John and Mei Yin became enemies because he blames Mei Yin for the reason they lost the war against General Nerva. He even wants to kill her now, but thanks to his adopted daughter Alassi, who begs on her behalf, he decides to spare her and takes them to their village. Just as they get to John village, Mei Yin tries to convince him to reform another alliance till they can go on another war with General Nerva, as they have higher chances of winning this time around thanks to the new weapon she just acquired. John tells Mei Yin to follow him, while Helena is asked to stay behind as they go to discuss the matter with the Council of Elders. Helena hears a cough from a close-by room in the village and goes to check what's wrong. She sees dozens of sick people on the bed, and Alassi enters and tells Helena that they are suffering from swarm fever, and the big problem is that they don't know what causes this disease. John and Mei Yin returns from the council meeting, and it turns out that Mei Yin's proposal on another war against General Nerva was rejected. John tells her that they should be more worried about the people falling sick in her village, leading to Helena to ask how they can make medicine to cure their villagers' diseases. John tells her the only ingredients to make the cure are blue flowers that used to grow on the mountain slopes nearby, but they are no more, ever since a gigantic bird monster devoured them all. The bird monster recently laid some blue eggs, and Helena seems to have a solution that doesn't make sense to them. The color of the bird egg is normally white, but ever since it ate the blue flowers the egg it laid recently came out blue. Helena believes the bird must have passed its medicinal properties of the blue flowers it ate into its eggs, and wants them to find the egg, believing it can cure the diseases. John, Mei Yin, Alassi, and Helena embarks on a journey on top of the mountain where the nest of the bird is to get its egg. Whenever they decide to rest and eat, Alassi normally used the period to teach Helena how to shoot an arrow to defend herself. From a serious cough, Helena notices that Alice also have the disease and tells the others. John furiously asks Lassie why he never told her, but she replies that he has always been overprotected to her, and if not he found out earlier, he wouldn't have allowed her to join them on the mission. They leave the sick Lassie at an opening in the mountains and ask Helena to watch over her. John and Mayim waits for the bird to leave its nest, and when it does, they climb to the top to steal the blue egg. Immediately they gain possession of the egg. Some hatchlings wakes up and chases them, but luckily they escape. Lassie is now half dead from the sickness, so without wasting any much time, Helena opens the egg and begins to feed Lassie with the blue liquid she found inside it. Helena's theory was right after all, as the liquid heals Lassie instantly, while the rest is taken back to the village to cure the other sick villagers. Helping to save his daughter and his people's life, John reconciles with Mayim and welcomes Helena to his clan. Just then, one of the prisoners Helena helped escape from General Nerva prison shows up really wounded, and behind her is a soldier of Nerva who was on the hunt for her. Mayim and John takes down the soldier with their weapons, but unfortunately, due to the fatal injury, the prisoner died on Helena's arms. When John tells Helena that this woman might have escaped from one of Nerva's mines nearby, Helena becomes eager to free the slaves who are being subjected to forced labor at the mine. John, Mayim, and Lassie, sharing the same sentiments about the slaves in Nerva's mines, decide to accompany Helena. The guards in the mine are too much for them to take down on their own, so they hatch a plan to infiltrate the mine. Helena disguises herself as a slave while Lassie disguises as a soldier of the mine, but their plans fails as their trick could not fool the mine leader, Gladiatrix, who catches them. Lassie is placed in an arena with 2 dinosaurs to eat her, while Helena is forced to watch. Smartly, Lassie turns the dinosaurs against each other, and they ended up killing themselves. Helena and Lassie are thrown inside the prison in the mine. Helena sees some fireworms and uses it to unbind their chains. She hands as many fireworms as possible to Lassie for her to use to quietly free the slaves in the mines, while she goes to the drawbridge to create a passageway for their escape. After freeing the slaves, Lassie leads them on an organized rebellion against the soldiers in the mine. John and Mayim brought men from the village to help in the fight, and together, they defeated Gladiatrix and her soldiers. John tells the slaves that they are free to go, but they decided to join his rank so they can free the slaves in other mines and kill General Nerva. Mayim alerts Helena of the soldiers charging towards her with a sword. But as Helena aims her arrow at him, the soldier drops his sword and begs for mercy. As soon as she lowers her guard, he attacks her and escapes. As they return back to the village, Mayim trains the slaves to be a warrior. She trains Helena on how to use a spear and how to fight. On the other hand, that soldier Helena failed to kill runs to General Nerva and reports to him what happened and even revealed to him the location of their village. Later that night, General Gaius Nerva attacks their village with his men. John and Mayim never expected this attack as it caught them by surprise. According to John's orders, Lassie organizes a retreat with the villagers, while the ones that can fight including John, Mayim, and Helena holds off Nerva's men. During the battle, General Nerva and Mayim goes on a one-on-one combat. Mayim appears to be more skillful and gains the upper hand, but Rockwell finds a tranquilizer in the rubble and shoots a dart at her, knocking her out. Nerva sees this as an opportunity to get some information, which is why he captures Mayim instead of killing her instantly. Helena tries to rescue her using her arrow, but John tells her to stop and assures they will rescue Mayim, but firstly they have to regroup. Mayim is locked up in General Nerva prison, who later shows up and interrogate her concerning the location of Helena, but Mayim is not afraid but instead is prepared to die. Rockwell also comes to visit her too, and we find out that he was that friend she trusted in the past who betrayed them and joined Nerva forces. He tries to persuade her to side with them, but as a reply to his proposal, she spits on his face. On the other hand, John is frustrated because he can't think of a plan to infiltrate Nerva's stronghold because his stone walls are too high to repel over and too strong to batter down. An inventor in their tribe called Henry has an idea. If they can't knock down the walls, perhaps they can blow them up. He reveals to John and the rest that he has been making a new explosive compound, but the only issue is they have to climb the wall and place it inside Nerva Palace for the bomb to be more effective. Later that night, Helena and John sneaks inside Nerva Palace thanks to a lizard animal that helped them climb his walls. They placed explosive in every corner of the place and heads forward to rescue Mayim, who is being crucified on a cross, but unfortunately, the general catches Helena with his men as he expected them to come rescue Mayim. Nerva and his men surrounds Helena, asking her to surrender. However, Helena reveals that it is he who needs to surrender as John shows up out of nowhere and used his fire arrow to detonate the explosives. It destroyed the gates, giving John then access to Nerva Palace for an attack. As Helena and Mayim escape, John stays behind to fight Nerva face to face. John is overpowered by Nerva after a long fight and is stabbed in the stomach. But before John breathes his last breath, he shoots one last bag of explosives, engulfing the palace, including Nerva's dinosaur. It was a happy ending for John. He wakes up in a beautiful afterlife where he reunites with his dead wife and daughter. The movie ends here. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and turn on notification so you can watch more videos like this.